A single food kept men alive as they crossed 1,600 kilometers of the Sahara. Dates were banned for export by empires, so valuable that whole families were executed for smuggling a sapling. The official story is about a humble fruit, but the truth is global fortunes, genetic heists, and desert survival itself were built on what is inside these dates. Why did absolute power depend on controlling these palms, and what happened when the monopoly broke? In 1352, Ibn Battuta set out across the Sahara with a caravan, carrying dates and water, nothing else. The salt miners of Taghaza, he wrote, survived in 120 degrees Fahrenheit heat on dates shipped from distant oases, in a landscape so barren, even the flies fed on blood. For weeks, the only thing keeping men upright was a handful of fruit. Whoever controlled the dates had the power to decide who crossed and who did not. The science behind this is almost unbelievable. Dates pack 277 calories per 100 grams, with a perfect glucose-fructose split that gives instant energy and a slow, steady burn. Every bite turns into fuel that does not just power muscles, it creates water inside your cells. Metabolic water, 500 milliliters a day, comes just from breaking down those sugars. In a place where sweat pours out faster than you can drink, dates give back what the desert takes. Each serving delivers 696 milligrams of potassium, replacing what is lost in heat, plus 23 amino acids to rebuild muscle, and 6.7 grams of fiber to keep blood sugar from crashing. No modern energy bar, no sports gel, nothing in a plastic wrapper comes close. In the Sahara, life and death balanced on these numbers. Tafilalet stretches for 30 miles, an unbroken ribbon of green in a world of sand. Here, date palms rise by the millions, their roots drinking from hidden water, their fruit fueling every journey across the Sahara. This was no ordinary farmland. Tafilalet was the engine of the trans-Saharan trade, the only refueling point for caravans longer than some cities. At the height of the gold and salt trade, 20,000 camels could form a single convoy, snaking for 25 kilometers through the desert night. Each beast carried its own ration of dates. No other food could survive the journey or keep the drivers alive. But the real power lay with those who owned the palms. The Tuareg, masters of the desert, controlled both ends of the route, the salt pits of Taghaza in the north and the date groves of Kawar in the south. Tribute was not optional. Caravans paid in gold, salt, or slaves just for the right to pass, and without Tuareg permission, no one crossed alive. French colonial records from the 19th century describe single caravans hauling 200 tons of goods, their survival hinging on nightly travel, strict discipline, and the promise of dates at the next oasis. In the Sahara, date palms were more than food. They were the infrastructure of empire, as valuable as oil or railways in another age. Exporting a date palm offshoot was not just illegal, it was a gamble with your future. In Morocco, the Medjool was so prized that royal decrees reserved it for the Sultan's court alone. French colonial records describe police raids on oases like Boudnib, with smugglers facing years in prison, heavy fines, or exile for trying to move a single offshoot beyond the kingdom's borders. In Egypt and Iran, plant quarantine laws spelled out jail time and crushing penalties for anyone caught trafficking palms. The reason ran deeper than royal pride. A date palm takes 5 to 6 years before it bears fruit. But once mature, a single tree can feed a family for generations and live for 80 years or more. Losing a superior variety to a rival meant surrendering decades of wealth. Quarantines and embargoes were enforced by armed guards and border patrols, all to protect the genetic lifeblood of entire empires. For would-be smugglers, the risk was never just about money. It was about survival itself. Official embargoes did not end the hunger for new palms. They only drove the trade underground. When the gates closed, smugglers stepped in, weaving secret routes through borderlands and braving armed patrols for a single offshoot. The stakes were high. A Medjool palm could feed a family for generations, and buyers paid fortunes for even a handful of shoots. Ben Zion Israeli, founder of the Kinneret kibbutz, described hiding date offshoots in luggage and bribing border guards in the 1930s, knowing he risked prison or worse if caught. He later said he had to smuggle them illegally out of the countries, recalling the tension of every crossing. The Food and Agriculture Organization confirms that most official exchanges between date-producing nations were blocked outright, with embargoes, quarantines, and border searches creating a thriving black market. In this shadow economy, ingenuity was survival. Smugglers disguised offshoots as ordinary fruit, swapped identities with caravan drivers, and mapped new trails through the desert night, all to deliver a living treasure forbidden by law. By the end of the 19th century, Morocco's date groves were under siege. Bayud disease, a deadly fungus, swept through the Oasis, killing 12 million palms and pushing the Medjool, the legendary king of dates, to the edge of extinction. In 1927, botanist Walter Swingle arrived in the remote Boudnib Oasis with a single mission: rescue what could be saved. He found one mother palm still alive, surrounded by devastation. Swingle took exactly 11 offshoots and smuggled them out under strict quarantine protocols. They traveled across the Atlantic, landing in the Nevada desert, where they spent 8 years in isolation, watched over by Kemahuevi caretakers and USDA scientists. Only 9 survived. Those 9 became the ancestors of every Medjool date grown outside Morocco today. In 2024, geneticists confirmed the truth. 99.93% of the world's Medjools are clones of that single rescued tree. The entire billion-dollar industry, every orchard from California to Israel, stands on the narrowest genetic foundation imaginable. One disease, one mutation, and it could all vanish overnight. French colonizers swept into Algeria in 1830 and redrew the map of ownership overnight. 1 million Europeans seized 2/3 of the country's arable land, while 9 million Algerians were pushed onto shrinking plots barely large enough to survive. The Deglet Noor, a date so prized it became known as the Queen, was funneled out of Tolga and Biskra oases by the thousands of tons each year, bound not for local tables, but for markets in Paris, Madrid, and Rome. Colonial archives show the harvests were counted and taxed, then loaded onto trains and ships. Algerian farmers paid 70% of the direct taxes and earned just 1/5 of the income. The theft was not just economic. In Iraq, the devastation was physical. Professor Saeed Abdulrida Al-Alwan of Basra University documented how, during the war between Iran and Iraq, entire districts like Abu al-Qasib and Al-Faw lost their dense groves overnight. Saddam's regime ordered the systematic clearing of palm forests, once 33 million strong, and now only a fraction remain. Factories collapsed, groves vanished, and a crop that once fed empires became a memory. The scars of these losses still shape who controls the market today. Today, The power to decide who eats and who profits rests not with sultans or desert chieftains, but with a handful of corporations. Hadiklaim, an Israeli growers cooperative founded in 1982, now controls half of the world's premium Medjool date market, exporting nearly 20,000 tons each year. 60% of those dates come from plantations built on disputed West Bank land, rebranded for global supermarkets. Boycotts in the United States once slashed imports from 10.7 million kilograms in 2015 to just 3.1 million in 2018. But Hadiklaim's grip barely loosened. By 2023, Israeli date exports soared to $272.7 million, outpacing the protests. Across the Atlantic, Bard Valley date growers in California hold 70% of the U.S. Medjool market, all descended from just 6 of the original 9 Nevada palms. In Iraq and Algeria, governments responded with bans and protected designations, but a new threat arrived in the form of Order 81. Order 81, a law passed in 2004 during the U.S. occupation of Iraq, grants corporations 20-year patents on plant varieties, locking farmers out of their own genetic heritage. The monopoly is no longer enforced by armed guards at the Oasis. It is written into law, and it controls the fate of a fruit that once fed empires. Today, a billion-dollar industry still fights to control what once fed nomads in the open desert. As corporations patent ancient genetics and borders weaponize crops, the question is simple: who gets to own survival itself? The answer shapes what ends up on your plate every single day. If you're ready to reclaim what your ancestors knew, make sure you subscribe for more. We're just getting started.